show. Author's Corner, she asked about the books they wrote.
Joining us on Author's Corner is Dr. Steve Mimnaugh, and he has written a book that is hilarious. It is something that you can take away from being, imagine this, an emergency room physician for 35 years, and you can only imagine what you see in an emergency room. And his book is the AssMaster Chronicles, Behind the ER Curtain. And we are so pleased to have him on Author's Corner here on America Tonight with me, Kate Delaney. Doc, thanks so much for coming on.
Well, thanks for having me, Kate.
And it's interesting, we all have imaginations of what happens in the ER, or we've been to the ER and we see things that happen in the ER where you're waiting and people are coming in and all kinds of craziness and chaos ensues. First of all, what made you want to be an emergency room physician?
Well, it was a decision that I made when I was young and more of an adrenaline freak than I am right now in my older years. So it went along with skiing fast, mountain biking, gnarly trip, and whitewater rafting, and all kinds of things that I can't do now because I fear injury, which is what you see. It used to be most of the injuries that would show up in the ER were like industrial. Somebody got their hand stuck in the cog of the machine or something, or cut off a finger. But I was an adrenaline junkie at that time, and so I was offered a job, and I said, "Okay, this is it. We're doing emergency medicine." And the stories that I've written down in the book are based upon real experience with real people in real crazy situations. So you basically get some amount of PTSD when you're an ER doctor, because you take care of so many tragic situations, trauma and, heart attacks and stuff like that. But they don't make me feel good when I write about them. They're not feel-good stories. And so I wanted to write about the stuff that makes me laugh and that I think is interesting and funny to readers, and soon for listeners, because the audiobook of the AssMaster Chronicles will come out in about 1 to 2 weeks. So when I write about the crazy stuff that goes on, much of it occurs in the human nether regions, the undercarriage of the human animal. And, mostly guys like to insert things into their rectums and during the course of sex play, always. And then they become sequestered in there and they can't get them out. So they come in completely dejected and embarrassed to ask an ER doctor to get the thing out for them. So those are the kind of stories. And, when I say guys, the amount of the ratio of anal eroticism is about 28 men to 1 woman. You rarely see it. So this is almost all guys, although there's a couple of ladies who showed up for extractive assistance as well.
Yeah, and then that is the technical term, is, getting that assistance that they desperately need, because here's the thing, it's an emergency room, and if they don't come in sheepishly or not, however it is they arrive, they could die if they don't have something removed, right?
That's right. Yeah, it'll put too much pressure on the wall of the rectum or any other slimy bodily tube that they insert something into, and then that ruptures and bacteria spill into places where you can't have bacteria, and then they can go into septic shock and die.
Yeah. You told me about, tell us about some of the stories. You told me the story of the mayonnaise jar.
Oh, yeah. Yes, even among all these remarkable stories, a couple of them really stand out. And that is one of them where an older man, about 70-something, came in and told the triage nurse that he had something in his rectum and wanted it out. And was willing to say it was a jar. So of course they present the case to me, and I'm going like, okay, put him in bed 10, or we have stirrups and we can get him up in the, in stirrups and look around down there and see what we can find. I figured, okay, the guy probably has a baby food jar or something up there. And when I looked at it and tapped on the lid, it clearly said, well, out west we call it Best Foods, but Hellman's real mayonnaise.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking, and so I thought, oh, it's right here. This should be easy. And I did everything I could to try to pry at the thing and wiggle it and remove it. There's a full quart-sized glass jar full of nuts and bolts and washers that the guys had there. And obviously this wasn't his first try putting a mayonnaise jar up there. He'd, dilated himself with progressively larger insertions. And that guy had to go actually to the operating room because I could not get it out. And one of the other really remarkable things is about 10 years later, after telling the guy, don't ever do that again, he comes in 10 years later with a problem with his colostomy. And it turns out the thing we were worried about when we finally got the jar out, me and the colorectal surgeon, we figured he'd stop his crazy habit of doing this. And but he didn't. And finally the jar broke, lacerated his rectum. They had to rush him because he was bleeding to death to the operating room and take out his whole colon and give him a colostomy.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a very weird one and a family favorite, of course. The other one was a wine bottle, which similarly was wedged in there so tight and so far that both my medical partner, and I worked on that thing until we were sweating and our hands and forearms were pumped out, and we just could not get it. So we had the colorectal surgeon come in and try it. This is under a lot of sedation for the patient, propofol, which I refer to in the book as the Michael Jackson sleeping medicine.
Right.
So he couldn't get it out in the ER, which was a relief for us, going like, okay, this was not a solvable ER problem, and took him to the operating room. He couldn't get it out there under deep general anesthesia, and his colorectal fellow, she couldn't get it out, and the surgical nurse couldn't get it out. And then finally he asked his little surgical assistant, who's a very diminutive woman with small hands, to try. And she was their last hope, I guess. And so she was able to insinuate her little fingers around the butt end of the jar and extract it. And it was a nice California Chardonnay with a boutique label. And it raised the question for that guy was he butt chugging? Which is, something you can find out about online, obviously. And
right.
Usually college kids, with beer, like a beer bong, except it goes in the rectum instead of in your mouth. And he was really, really, really drunk. And when you dump an entire fifth of Chardonnay into your rectum and colon, it immediately absorbs all the alcohol, and you get really intoxicated, which this man was. And I never did ask him if that's what he was doing, but it seemed likely to me, because otherwise, why's that bottle up there?
Right, exactly. What I love about this book is just somebody reviewed it. One of the things I picked out of what the review said, I thought, oh, this nails it. Your book is told with compassion, humanity, humility, a wee bit of professorship, as well as schooling us in anatomy, psychology, sociology, medical terminology, and the tribulations of our species, as witnessed through the eyes of the good doctor. And you were good at doing this, which is difficult to do. It's a procedure. You just gave us examples of what you couldn't do. And so I'm sure you were the butt of a lot of jokes, weren't you?
I sure was. And that's why they started calling me the master, because I was good at that procedure and nobody else wanted to do it. And so whenever a rectal foreign body would come in, they would send it to me every time if I was there in the ER. And so they avoided having to deal with it. But, going back to what you had just said, Kate, one of the main lessons of this, and it should be a main lesson in medicine in general, is sure, they were caught in a sexual misadventure and they're embarrassed, but when it's presented to me, and I hope other doctors too, you have to have the compassion for it, and you have to say, okay, this is no longer, it's a disaster for the guy personally, but you have to approach them in a like every patient.
Right.
Because accidental self-inflicted trauma is common, and you approach that in a non-judgmental way. And that really served me well for that. Well, I didn't take out my first rectal foreign body until year 8 of my 35-year practice. But getting to the point of being not judgmental with those people, just as you should with every patient with every conceivable problem, really helped me objectify the problem and go, okay, you're doing sex play. I know you're embarrassed, but now we got to get this out so you don't die.
Just imagine all the people that came into the emergency room as we've been talking with Dr. Steve here. And of course, the ultimate thing is what we just said there, don't die, not having people die. So when we come back, we wrap it up with him, the conversation as to what are some of the key takeaways he hopes that you get when you read his book. That's next. You're on Author's Corner with me, Kate Delaney, on America Tonight. And we're back here on Author's Corner with Dr. Steve Mimnaugh. We've been talking about your book and what it's been like for you, that journey in the emergency room. And when people read it, what do you hope the takeaway is?
I speak a lot in the chapter, The Curious Voyeur, about the nature of human curiosity. And we all are born with what we call perceptive curiosity. Like when you're a little kid, you have not seen the world yet. And so you're trying to build a framework of reality in your little life. And everything you see that's new or different, or it doesn't match what you thought you knew, that's the perceptual curiosity. And we retain that to a diminishing degree over the course of a long life. And at some point in there, during your maturation process, you then develop what's called epistemic curiosity. And that is, as humans are the only animals that transcend the curiosity and ask the question why. The epistemic curiosity leads you to the point of when you're an old guy and you're going like, that thing surprises me. I've seen it all. And they're not willing to take a lot of chances. Like I said about the dangerous sports I used to be involved in, as you grow older, because you see what happens, especially as an emergency physician, that jump that the snowboarder took broke his neck, and now he's going to be a paraplegic for the rest of his life.
Right.
And you see the horrible things that can happen to people. Nowadays, instead of industrial problems, we mostly see recreational problems causing the trauma. They're out riding their four-wheeler and they roll it down the side of the hill and get all, banged up. I've had to retreat into that myself. I used to love to do the, dangerous stuff.
But now you're careful because of what you just said. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm 75 years old, and, you get a bad injury, that can be devastating for the rest of your life.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Not to mention pain.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's a very, very funny read. You can get it for a song. As Dr. Steve told us, you'll be able to get the audio version, Kindle, paperback. You can get it on Amazon, Barnes & Noble. And again, the name of the book, The AssMaster Chronicles, Behind the ER Curtain, Dr. Steve Mimnaugh. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Well, that was great, Kate. Thanks so much for having me. It's fun talking to you.